Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, and thank you for stopping by. All right, guys, tonight, fair warning, there's going to be a spicy situation on this video because this just irritates me. Now, we're going to talk about tonight how the left is manipulating and moving again around gun control. We've always talked about it. It's not about the outcome that they desire, it's the outcome of the moment. They are constantly changing their approach and their facade based on their ultimate goal of destroying the Second Amendment. It is that goal. There's no mistake. And here's the proof of it. ABC is doing a special right now, and now they're going after taxes on existing gun purchases. They're not going about saving lives anymore through gun control and common sense safety measures. Now it's shifting to, well, they bought all those guns and they broke records in 2020 and 2021, so we must not have landed that message, so now we need to tax them because they obviously didn't buy that message. So let's change it around. That's what's happening. That's what we're going to dive into, and I want to hear you guys on this and spread this out because we are in the middle of a gun control shift on mentality and thinking from the left. This is important, and we're going to document it, but I want to hear from you guys. It's linked in the description. Let's dive in. All right. Two things I want you to keep in mind as I go through this. One, do you guys remember the $5 billion that was promised by Biden in the infrastructure bill for gun violence prevention? You remember that? That was back in April. Well, I also did an article recently, or a video on an article, about how they were really threatening that better be in the Build Back Better plan, right? The one that's in trouble in the Senate. That's the first thing. The second thing, I'm going to ask you this question and keep it in mind. If you can't pass a background check, how could you pay a tax to buy a gun you can't buy? And that's important. Keep that in mind because this tax is only going to hit legal gun owners with a clean background check. Check it out. After a year of record gun sales, advocates mull over how a new tax could save lives. Could a California be the model for the nation? By the way, they don't tell you, but in this article, it even says that they didn't even pass California with a supermajority. Let's keep going. Those pushing for taxes on guns and bullets, Friedrich said, need to keep their focus on explaining how the new revenue could prevent future violence. This is from a Giffords.org person. Keep this in mind as we go forward. Quote, I think the tax itself is not what's effective, but it's what the tax funds. It's no longer about gun control from a standpoint of saving lives. It's not about guns and common sense laws. It's about taxing because they can't do that anymore. I keep going. That's really the key, that we emphasize we're not looking at the tax itself to solve all of our problems. What really matters is what are we funding? What are we investing in? Let's go back to that first part. Need to keep their focus on explaining how the renewed revenue could prevent future violence. Look at the next thing he says. This is Giffords.org. It's very important that proposals, like the one in California, aren't perceived as punitive, advocates say, and that even if they pass, additional solutions will still be required. So this isn't going to solve anything. It's just tax on the new people. This is a punitive action against legal gun owners because the only people who are going to pay this tax is the people who actually buy things legally with background checks and are clear. There's no way that cannot be perceived as punitive. It is. And that's what they're trying to go for. And a good rule of thumb, when you hear gun controllers talking about the idea, like it's really important we frame this right, it can't be perceived as punitive. That means it is punitive and it's not going to be perceived correctly. All right, let's keep going. Let's talk about this tax BS. After a year that saw a record high 21 million gun sales, revealed by data on background checks, and record high gun deaths, 34,274 in 2021 alone. By the way, 25% of those were murders, the rest were all suicides. Per gun violence data, archive data, which is a bunk source, some are revisiting how a tax scheme could be used to mitigate the carnage seen in places such as schools, grocery stores, and homes. They just said in the article it's not going to mitigate anything. This is just a tax upon legal gun owners, a Second Amendment right. Yeah, this is going to work out great. Here is how advocates argue that a tax could be used as one policy lever in a holistic approach to ameliorating gun violence. Oh, that was such a friendly, flowery sentence. Not with the goal of keeping people from buying guns, but rather to claw back revenue from industry profits to raise billions for American communities. Okay, if that is not un-American, I don't know what is. That whole paragraph, like the idea is, well, you're not going to mitigate any gun violence. You're just going to take money to mitigate the outcomes. So you're taxing people who had nothing to do with the crime for those that do have something to do with the crime, and it's not their fault. They have nothing to do with it. It's not punitive at all. These people are just disgusting. I'll be honest, they're just disgusting. Ari Fleelich, this is the Giffords.org guy, the state policy director at Giffords Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence, noted that a federal tax on guns and ammo hasn't been in place for decades. Okay, hold on. So this is what they do. Yes, there has been a federal tax on guns for decades. You know what it's for? It's for wildlife conservation. It's so that you can create that resource and make it a renewable resource. That is something that gun owners and hunters and fishermen have been doing through licenses their entire lives. The idea that they're putting as gun control taxes on ammo and guns has been around for decades is a complete lie and a miscalculation at best. The manipulation is so irritating. A 10% tax on the sale of pistols and revolvers and an 11% tax on other firearms and ammunition. The revenue raised is mainly used to fund wildlife conservation efforts and education programs for hunters, according to Fleelich. Yes, exactly what I said. Let's keep going. Tax Policy Center told ABC News, a tax like the one proposed in California, quote, really punishes people who are high-volume users, who are going to tend to be target shooters or hunters. But it's not punitive, right? It's exactly what it is. It's a punitive action against a legal right. I don't know if those people are really the ones that are responsible for most gun violence, but that doesn't sound likely, he added. So an ammunition tax seems like it's misdirected. It's not misdirected. It's aimed directly at the people who they're trying to hurt. This is a punitive tax because they don't agree with policy, and their lies and their BS with common sense gun control fell flat because Americans completely rejected it in every demographic and bought more guns than they ever have. Women bought more guns than they ever have. African Americans bought more guns than they ever have. They are losing the debate, so they're shifting to tax and punitive action as a punishment. This is despicable, and that's why we're covering it. Let me know what you guys think, and I will see you tomorrow morning on the Bullet Points. I'm Braden, signing out.